I made a video where I talk about a couple of interesting little fun stories from when I did cable installation a long time ago. Well, unfortunately, that video did about as bad as a video can do on my channel. The views were practically flatline. 150, I think, it got in over a day, which is shocking even for my channel. It's so bad, I wonder if people even saw that it was posted. So I figure let's go over 2. This is the time that I ended up being accidentally racist because I was autistic, socially awkward, and extremely nervous with a pileup to the point that I bailed, and it somehow turned me into a racist, despite race having nothing to do with it. So, a little background. When you did cable installation at the company I did, you'd gather certain items, and often, like at the beginning of the day, you'd make sure you had enough of these fittings to go on the end of the wires, but you needed a certain kind for normal wires, a certain kind for the fat cables. The normal ones are RG6, the fat ones are RG11. And then there's a special kind called a quad shield fitting for RG6 with extra shielding around it. You can kind of hammer a regular fitting on to and make it sort of work for quad shield, but it's very, very hard on your hand. The quad shield fitting has extra room for the shielding. So anyway, I go to this guy's house, nice house. I think it was relatively new construction. All his cables go to a house box. That's where you have a depression inside of some room behind a panel or a door. Usually it's in a closet or a garage or, but it's just this big flat white metal plate. Sorry about the bronchitis, by the way. And behind it, all the wires in the house that are pre-wired to outlets, all those wires run to that central location, which is great. Normally a house box is a great thing. Well, here's the problem. I, at the time, was spineless, doormat, you name it, nervous, shy, awkward, whatever. I could deal with people to some extent, but pressure got to me, and it was pretty easy to pressure me into doing more than I should. Like, we're supposed to charge per outlet, right? And they get up to 3 with an install, if I recall correctly. And this guy had like 8. And what I found out while I was by the way, another thing that's important is they would overload me with jobs at this point. There weren't enough people that this company had hired to do the area. So I'd get loaded with like 8 or 9 jobs in an area where practically I could only do 5 or 6 in a day. So I would be out till 8 or 9 p.m. sometimes trying to get these jobs done. So I was probably not getting enough sleep. I was driving like an hour to the area and back every day. And then on top of that, I was always overloaded. I could never finish all the jobs. If you ever wonder why your appointment might have been missed back in the day, that was why. Because Time Warner contracted it out to the people that I worked for. The people that I worked for sent me out. And yeah, it didn't go very well. Because if they didn't have enough people to cover the area, they'd just pile more jobs onto the people that did, which meant you were guaranteed to not finish all the work you were handed. Which is stupid, and that's why they're no longer in business. At least around here. I don't know if they still exist. But they sure as hell aren't in business now. So, at the beginning of the day, you're supposed to get all the fittings you think you'll need. And there are certain rules about, like, you get a free outlet with an install, and, there's a lot that goes into it. But the bottom line is this guy had like 8 outlets in the house, and he wanted all of them active. And it was to the point where he would almost need a house amplifier just to be able to use 8 outlets. I mean, he sort of started at a low level, but it built up to the point that I had somehow managed to agree to just go ahead and do all the outlets and not charge them or whatever. But then I found out I didn't have enough quad shield fittings, so I had to call another guy out that was working that same area to give me his quad shield fittings. And what ended up happening is I didn't have enough fittings even with that because you need 16 to do 8 outlets. Basically, there was so much work that was involved in this that I panicked because I started doing the work and I realized I am not going to get any of these other jobs done. I'm not going to get, I'm not going to get paid for the extra that I stupidly agreed to do for this guy for some stupid reason. Because people-pleasing mentality. I'm not, the other jobs I'm going to be late to, they're all going to be pissed off at me. It all really piled up to the point that I freaked out. And I do mean I freaked out. Like, I was literally panicking and crying. What happened is the guy left, and I was panicking internally. The guy left, and he said he'd be back soon. And I just couldn't do it. I once he left, it really started to sink in that this job and the BS I agreed to do and shouldn't have, that was not going to happen. And I was basically screwing myself. And pretty much one of the things that autistic people like me don't handle very well is high pressure situations where other people, particularly a lot of other people, are probably going to be mad at you, and, it just doesn't go over very well if you're autistic. Now, I have learned to deal with it mostly by just not caring that people get mad at me anymore. I've just decided that if someone gets mad, that's their problem and not my problem, and that's how I cope with that. I actually handle it a lot better than I did back then, but we're talking about me being pretty young, and probably one of the youngest cable guys. So I freaked out. I was literally crying as I hopped in my truck. I frantically threw all my stuff in the back of the truck while this guy wasn't home. And I drove off as fast as I possibly could. And that's it. I never heard anything else. I didn't hear back. Nothing. I didn't hear anything from anyone about it. No one complained, which was astonishing to me. I figured for sure the guy would call up and be really, really pissed off and that I'd get an earful and all this other stuff. I honestly have no idea what happened. So anyway, I've got this situation handled, right? It's autistically. But at the same time, I bailed, relieved the pressure, and moved on with my life. Well, I think 2 weeks later, maybe, I was at someone else's house. Well, guess who's visiting the someone else's house that I've been called out to hook up? This guy. Now, I don't remember if I said it earlier, but an important piece of information is, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm not exactly a brown-skinned dude. This guy's a black guy. The person I'm hooking up, whose house he's at, is also a black guy. Well, this guy, I figure, oh great, we're going to have some sort of big blow-up or something. Well, that doesn't happen. But what he does do, and in front of the other guy, no less, is talk to me. Fortunately, he didn't blow up at me, but he basically called me out for leaving, and said something about, money doesn't have any color but green and all this other stuff. He didn't make a huge deal of it, but at the same time, he was really, stern about it. And I can understand. In retrospect, I could have handled the situation a lot better. However, at the time I was, how would you say it? Socially and emotionally ill-equipped to handle it any better. I didn't know I was autistic at that point. My mom did, but I didn't. And I didn't know why I handled things the way I did. All I knew is that it all piled up on me at once. I made too many mistakes and they amplified each other, and I freaked out and I bailed out hard. And it had nothing to do with the guy, really. I mean, he pressured me into promising things that I shouldn't have or couldn't have delivered. And that led to me leaving. So to some extent, he is at fault for me bailing out. But I did make the promises nonetheless. And I'm not particularly proud of any of what I'm talking about. The part that does to this day still piss me off a little bit is when he brought up the issue of race, as if I bailed on him because he was black. Like, I just got called out to this other black guy's house, and I'm setting up his cable, and in front of the other black guy, he's like, lightweight calling me out for bailing on him because I'm racist. No, dude. It has nothing to do with your race and everything to do with a bunch of things piling up and freaking me out. But, I didn't say anything, because what was I supposed to say? It put me under the stress all over again, of course. I mean, bring it all right back, stack it all right back on top of me. But the best solution, as far as I could figure, was to shut up. Just listen. Okay, yeah. And don't talk. Let him just say it. And then service the customer. Because he wasn't the customer. He was a visitor. The customer was the customer. And I took care of the customer and everything was fine. I never went back out to that guy's house. I never saw that guy again. But that's how I ended up being racist. Because I freaked out because I was young, inexperienced, socially awkward, autistic, and didn't know it. And I found myself in a situation that felt like I was trapped and that the world was going to come down on me in that moment. And somehow that made me racist. So there's a less fun cable story. Maybe I'll get 5 more views on it this time. Who knows? If you like these stories, let me know in the comments, because truth is, if nobody wants to hear me talk about this crap, I just won't. I don't have to sit here in a parking lot for 10 minutes and tell you my cable stories. Not that there are that many left, but let me know if you liked it. Have a good one. And, don't be an autistic racist, I guess.